Hello, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Music Tech Preview Day. My name is Cindy Dang. I'll be your admissions counselor today. We have an awesome lineup ready for you to kind of kick off and get started. So feel free to kick back, enjoy a cup of coffee, whatever whatever it takes to kind of get through the day. But I promise you, we're going to keep you entertained throughout the entire time. Just some quick housekeeping things. If you have any questions, the chat function is available for you that you can always supplement. At some point, we're likely going to be answering questions throughout, but like I said, just kick back, enjoy the virtual preview day. I'm going to do a quick admissions overview. Then we're going to go off to meet with our faculty members that host this amazing music tech program. And then we're going to do a Q&A with some alum and some current students to talk about all things with regards to the experience and also careers and internships that may come out of music technology. And then we're going to give you a virtual tour of the amazing facility that we have here in Stark County in North Canton, Ohio. So again, I hope you enjoy, but let's go ahead and get started. Hello, I hope you all can hear me now. My apologies. So here at Kent State University at Stark, year-round, we're about 7,000 students. To the next point, student to faculty ratio is about 21:1, which really just means is that we have small, intimate classrooms. Our faculty really get to know you by name. So if you're familiar with that aspect and you like that small to mid-size institution feel, we have that. 200 of our students here on this campus are within the honors program. 70% of our students are financial aid recipients. 13% of our makeup are multicultural and international students. Before we kind of go into the weeds of things, I wanted to talk about our admissions process real quick. If you want to pick up your camera and just take a screenshot of this, you're welcome to, but the link that you will be applying for. So if you are graduating May 2021 or June, however your graduation date works at your school, you would apply as a first-year student. And so for Kent State University at Stark, we are open enrollment. So basically, all you need to do is submit your application, your official high school transcript from your guidance counselor at your school. For this coming fall 2021 term, we are test optional. However, if you have ACT or SAT scores that you would like to share, it does help with course placement. And if applicable, if you took College Credit Plus classes while you were in high school, whether it be at your school or at a different institution, we would also love those transcripts to help apply to your account when you become a Kent State student. And as a bonus, which I'll kind of allude to later, that if you apply between now until October 30th, you'll be considered for an admissions scholarship. But if you have any questions, the email's right there. So more about Kent State Stark. As far as academics go, Kent State University at Stark is the largest of the regional campus system. We have 8 campus regionals, including the Kent campus. We also have academic sites in Cleveland, New York City, and Columbus, as well as international centers in Italy, Switzerland, China, and India. At Kent State altogether, there are 340 undergraduate degree programs to study at Kent State. 25 or so of those you can fully complete on our campus. And obviously, being that you're all here, music technology is something you can fully do on our campus for all 4 years. You can also pursue a minor in music technology should you wish, and that's also an option for you too. To my point earlier, if for whatever reason you wanted also double major, or if there's something else that you also were looking at, you can begin nearly all Kent State majors at Kent State University at Stark, and then transition off to the Kent campus to complete your degree. But again, to emphasize together, you can do the music technology degree here on this campus for all the time that you have while you're pursuing your bachelor's degree. These are all the bachelor's degrees that I was alluding to earlier. I highlighted music technology, but all the other programs that we have here, should you ever want to consider as more majors if you want to look into. As far as faculty go, this is pretty much, everything that you see here with our faculty, and they're gonna also talk a little bit more about the program specifically, but with regards to faculty here at Kent State University at Stark, being that we have the intimate classrooms, the small classroom sizes, they really try to get to know you by name, and they really have those opportunities to be accessible to you to ensure that you are getting what you need to be successful inside and outside the classroom, whether it be being involved in a student organization or simply mentoring to see, what career prospects that you want to pursue in the future and how they can direct you there. And what's really awesome about Kent State University at Stark is all of our faculty have office hours, even being in this virtual remote environment, that they can be accessible to you, so that should you have any questions, or if you're struggling in a class, or you just simply want more clarification, those office hours are always open to you so that you can take advantage of those times to be able to talk one-on-one with your faculty members. Here at Kent State University at Stark, we have just about anything that you could possibly imagine under the sun here on this campus. The one thing that we don't need, which is really nice, I would say, is that we are a fully commuter campus. We don't have housing. However, we are we have opportunities around the campus, whether it be apartments. We do have a partnership with another university down the road, should you want to do that residence life feel. But otherwise, as far as success inside and outside the classroom, everything that you see in front of you and support services are available to you as a student. Student involvement, there are tons of opportunities to be involved on campus. I know that there's a music tech club or an organization here on this campus that you could definitely get involved in, but when we have more people and more bodies on this campus, there's a lot more things that are going on, but hopefully that you take advantage of these student involvement opportunities for leadership skills, entrepreneurial spirit, whatever that case may be, to really build up your portfolio as part of your student experience. Also, we have study abroad experiences, so should you ever want to take a class abroad to some capacity, you can always connect with our Office of Global Initiatives to kind of see what opportunities are out there. So everyone's favorite part of the presentation for admissions is the tuition cost. So what you're looking at for Kent State University at Stark, $6,500 is our hometown tuition rate that is for you. If you're planning to do, especially the music technology degree for all 4 years, that is the full 1-year tuition cost. And if you times that by 4, it's about like 28 some, don't correct me on my math, but that's what you're looking at. And it's such an affordable and awesome opportunity to get that education that Kent State offers, the music program that is phenomenal here with that affordable cost. Now, if you're looking at other institutions, the public campuses such as including the Kent campus and also maybe the University of Akron, maybe Youngstown State University, Dayton, whatever those case may be, those public institutions, you're looking at $11,600 on average, and maybe an extra $10,000 if you're living in the residence halls. And then if you're looking at private colleges, so like Malone University or Walsh University, that's just right down the road from us, that's what you're looking at for 1 full year. So really just to wrap it up as far as the affordability cost, this is what you're looking at. And that Kent State tuition guarantee follows you. So that is an awesome opportunity, especially with this phenomenal program, which you'll get to see shortly, that you get for that 4 years is maybe about $28,500 as your total tuition for that 4 years on the Star campus. So really awesome opportunity. I encourage you, as you come in as a student, take advantage of scholarships because those will also be helpful for you along the way to afford your education even more. So as far as getting started, these are kind of loose deadlines, but we always like to consider that if you're looking for other colleges and experiences. as part of your application process. Feel free to take a screenshot of this, but for us on the START campus, assuming you are pursuing the music technology degree, our first step begins around St. Patty's Day, which is kind of the pre-orientation orientation where students get to meet directly with their academic advisor and get scheduled classes right away. But for this particular music technology program, as soon as you get accepted at Kent State Stark, we will require that all music majors take a music placement and audition. Right now at this time, we're doing things a lot virtually, so you can find more information on our website with regards to what those next steps are. But I promise you, it's not scary. It's a really great opportunity so that we are able to use that information and place you into the correct courses, which we'll talk a little bit more from the faculties themselves. So that's it for me. So if you have any other questions, you're welcome to set it in the chat. For admission specific, you're welcome to also email me. This is our contact information. And so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off to our music technology professors. We have Mark Novakovsky and then also Ian Anderson to speak. So go ahead, Mark, go ahead and start.
All right, can you guys hear me and see me? Yes, yes, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, good. So welcome, thank you so much. I appreciate you spending your time with us this day. I'm Mark Novakovsky. I am one half of the music technology faculty, not of the entire faculty, because there's many more of us than that, but in terms of the people who teach and organize music technology courses. And what I'm gonna do now is share my screen here, and I have a little bit of a presentation for you about how the music technology program is organized. So there it is. And if you look, I don't know if you can read the subtitle, it says Kent State University at Stark Music Technology Degree Presentation, or how to actually have fun in college while gaining valuable career skills without accruing a boatload of student debt. All things we're very serious about. If you become a music technology major, there is a minor, by the way. I don't know as much about that, so you'll have to ask the advisors on that. But if you become a major, you will pursue a Bachelor of Science in Music Technology. And there are two sequences which you can go ahead and take. And there's a music production sequence and an audio recording sequence. Students do one or the other. Increasingly, students take our advice and do both. These degrees share certain courses, they share core requirements, and they oftentimes are mutually complementary, though they ultimately focus on different things. One of the things we do, myself and Professor Anderson, is we look at the job boards. We look at what skill sets are necessary and how the field is changing. And because this is because we have new facilities, because we are able to change software, because we know enough to be able to adjust to these things, I think we're able to stay pretty current. A lot of times bachelor's degrees in college are 5, 10, 15 years behind the times. And I think we're pretty with it in terms of what we're teaching and why we're teaching it. The music production sequence, which is the one I run, is considered the in-the-box sequence. It's based on music creation. It's based on software. It's based on the facilitation of your vision into a distributable reality. And when I'm done talking here, Professor Anderson will describe the audio recording sequence, which is kind of the flip side of that. If music production is the software degree, audio recording is the hardware degree. It's hardware, it's the recording studio, it's microphone theory, it's learning how to make somebody else's vision into a distributable reality. In terms of our program strengths, we already discussed affordability. I think that's very important. As somebody who took on a bit too much student debt in his pursuit of advanced degrees, I feel much more morally comfortable teaching at an institution that will not put my students into crushing debt. I think we have a relatively young faculty. We're all engaged in our fields. We're all very busy doing things aside from teaching. We all have professional projects and engagements. We have a very strong emphasis on what we call a balanced formation, including strong musicianship skills. If I can break this down for a second, at the end of your academic experience, you tend to do an internship. And what we keep hearing from the instructors and the companies that provide our internships is that they love our graduates or our soon-to-be graduates because they are not only technologically prepared, which they always are, but they're also musically prepared. There's a lot of programs that'll teach you how to press a button, how to turn a fader, how to apply a compressor, you know, how to get a little bit more beef out of a string sample, but they don't teach you music. And so I would say our program is very much 50-50. It's traditional musicianship. It is theory, history, instrumental performance, all the things you need to know to actually call yourself a musician, and then the tech built on top of that. And I think it's a good blend, and we've had a lot of success with it so far. The fourth program strength, I think, is we have a facility. It's only a couple years old now. It's what, 2 years old, 3 years old, that's built around our pedagogy. And pedagogy is a fancy word, which means how you teach and why you teach, right? So as a faculty, we're always discussing pedagogy. How are we teaching things? Why are we teaching things? How does what we teach relate to the reality of the industry and the job field? And so when we built this facility, we had the very unique opportunity to actually create a building and build the building around the way we want to teach. A lot of times a music program is created, it's shoved into some old asbestos infested building, and it's kind of shoehorned into there, and we're told to make it work somehow, right? And that was kind of our case for a little while too. But now it got flipped around, and we were able to say, we want these rooms and this equipment and these opportunities available on site. So even look at the way our studios are taught, right? There's a studio that's designed for kind of the beginners, and there's a studio that's designed for the more advanced students, and you get your hands on gear right away, right? So that's, I think, remarkably helpful to us, and it helps us pivot with the industry as well. We have a guided portfolio experience, number 5, and that means that in both the music production and the audio recording sequences, the last class you take is a guided portfolio. You're creating and revising works and pieces and recordings that you've made to create a portfolio which will hopefully make you an employable and attractive candidate in the future. And we have an internship, and our internships, I think, are really great. A lot of internships, you all know the stereotype, right, where you go and you get an internship at the, get the internship at the studio of your dreams, right, and you're in Abbey Road or someplace insane, and you get to see it from a distance, and you get to almost touch one of the faders on the mixer, and you get to fetch donuts for the lead engineer, maybe sweep a floor, and hope that they let you plug in some cables eventually, right? That's the way it looks for a lot of people. And what we do instead is we have a binder full of internships that we're always adding to, and we supervise these things, right? We have to make site visits. We have to approve the facility. We have to approve the people who are supervising the internship. And one of our things is we tell them, you have to give this student an educational experience. You have to give them hands-on experience. That doesn't mean that every internship is perfect, but if there's one that comes back that's really a dud, we strike that from our list, right? We want you guys to go in and have an experience which serves as a valuable capstone. And we have a number of students over the past few years that have gone on to go ahead and work for the studios that they interned at. I have a student now who did his internship out in Arizona, and he is now getting ready to go back there after he graduates. He's got projects in different genres already lined up from a distance with them. This next one here, what is that, number 6? Industry standard tools. And that means we've got lots of new stuff, right? We're not working with equipment from 1972, and hopefully it stays that way. We've had a good budget, and we've had the administrative support to not only have a new facility, but also have the equipment and the software that we need. So the mixer boards, the microphones, the rooms, the software, the computers, they're all, for the most part, 2 and 3 years old, updated regularly, and we're free to say, all right, the industry requires X, please give me X, and generally it happens pretty quickly. And now another great strength of our program is our students. We have a mixture of more traditional and more non-traditional students. I had a student come in last year that had studied cello for 10 years, and she was sitting next to somebody who had started doing music about a year ago, and their fixation before they came here was making beats, right? And so they learned from each other. They actually did some collaboration. And so I think this mixture, this very dynamic group of students is a great strength of ours. And what we look for, if I may diverge for just a second, our students, because we have our wishes too, right? And we want students that are not afraid of working hard. We want students that are really interested in the field, students that are willing to be taught and guided, students that desire to grow in creativity and really build a great portfolio and hopefully begin a great career for themselves. The last item on the program strengths is our new annual special guest program. The idea behind this about 3 years ago was to bring in industry heavy hitters at least once a year that can provide a different perspective, right? And also help update our perspectives. The first one we brought in was Martin O'Donnell, who did the music for Halo, among others. It was a great success. Admittedly, this got blown up last spring by COVID, just like everything else. So there's I should put a big pause button over this last one, because we'll wait till we get back to normal and budgets normalize. But we have every intent of getting back to this because it's very, very important for our students. All right, and if I may pivot now, I'll tell you very quickly about the music production sequence. And again, you can do music production or audio recording or both. If you do both, you're taking you're taking 3 additional courses, if I'm counting correctly. MI 3, MP3, 4, 5, 6, no, 4 additional courses. So you still get 1 degree. It's a Bachelor of Science, but you can claim both sequences. And it is the recommended path for those who really want to be employable. So the music production sequence, this is, when we mean by production, we don't mean like, oh, I produce things, right? As is typically known in the field. What we mean is the actual literal meaning of the word: production, creation, to have a musical idea or a sound design idea and be able to take your idea and realize it through technology into a distributable product, right? So we spend a lot of time with digital audio workstations. We learn professional level MIDI orchestration, both with synthesizers and orchestral instruments. We try to develop creative facility in both music composition and sound design. What I'm trying to teach here is the program I wish I could have gone into when I was 18 or 19. Had this program existed, I probably would have leapt at it. We try, in terms of career focus, we're preparing you for jobs in music and sound design, for commercials, film, television, video games, interactive media. A number of students are interested in popular music. We have some students interested in more classical music, and a lot of students do multiple things. We had a student, for instance, last year who went up to Canada to do his internship in a studio associated with Snoop Dogg, and he spent his whole summer doing hip hop music. And then at the end of the summer, one of the Call of Duty trailers had to be scored. So he's like, "Hey, I know how to score French horns," and he jumped in there, and he totally was able to pivot from hip hop to French horns and strings, and help orchestrate out the idea that was set to him. So that's the kind of broad-mindedness and broad set of skills that we're trying to develop. And the goal, the official goal, is to become a musical creative with strong technology skills, capable of guiding an entire project from first note to final completion. And what I like to say is, I love my graduates to be able to pack a laptop, a headphone, maybe a small MIDI interface, jump on whatever transportation they're taking, get to where they're going, unpack, and score a film on site, right? To be able to do it all in the box, in the laptop. If you visit my home, and people say, "Oh, you must have the most amazing like home studio." I go, "I have a desk and a laptop and a set of headphones and a MIDI keyboard. That's my home office, and a bunch of hard drives on the side, right?" But so I try to stay true to form, right? It's minimal in that sense. And now I'm going to pass it over to Professor Ian Anderson, who is sitting in his studio, and he will tell you a little bit about the audio recording sequence.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I apologize in advance. I have the world's squeakiest chair. It's really bad. So as Professor Novakovsky said, the music production sequence is almost entirely in the box. It's entirely software-based, where the audio recording sequence isn't quite entirely hardware based, as you know, we do need to use Pro Tools. We use a computer instead of a tape machine now. So you do need to know some software, and by some software, I mean Pro Tools and a few other things. But for the most part, you know, we're dealing with hardware, with, you know, the tactile sensation of interacting with devices, which for me is deeply satisfying. I really enjoy that. So yeah, of course, mixers, microphones, outboard hardware compressors and EQs, and, you know, instruments, setting up drum sets, setting up guitars and amps and basses and amps, and, you know, again, very much sort of the traditional studio-based education. So while the hardware stuff is all well and good and is a lot of fun, we do cover a lot of fundamental audio theory. The idea being that if you know how a microphone works, and believe me, there's many different kinds of microphones, and they convert acoustic energy into electrical energy using several different physical properties. When you know how these devices work and why, you're better equipped to make choices in choosing the devices that you want to use for any given project. So yes, a little bit of software, a lot of hardware, and a fair amount of audio theory, a little bit of sound wave propagation. How does sound actually come forth from my voice or from my speakers or from a guitar amp or from a drum set? How sound waves propagate or move, also extremely important. So there are a few other things that fall under that umbrella of audio theory that we cover, but for the most part, by and large, audio theory is largely confined to audio recording 1 and 2. So 50% of audio recording 1 is audio theory. Then we start studio work. 50% of audio recording 2, a little more advanced theory. Then we do more studio work. Once we get to audio recording 3, it's we're in the advanced studio upstairs, Studio A, with all the big, fancy, crazy, expensive, high-end stuff. And that's when we really focus on quality of recording. It's one thing to get sound into your computer and back out again, but it's another thing entirely for it to be the utmost quality that's commercial grade, for lack of a better way to put it. By the time we get to audio recording 4, that course is focused entirely on mixing, mostly out of the box. So on our big API Vision console, with a little bit of what we call hybrid mixing, which is partially in the box, so some in Pro Tools, but mostly out of the box. We'll do a little bit of surround sound mixing when we get to AR5, and a couple of advanced topics, how to fix poorly recorded sessions so that you can, what's a polite way to say the euphemism, Mark? Polishing a...
Yeah, let's not say it. Yeah.
Polishing an unclean object. To bring sort of amateur sounding things into the world of the professional. We gotta cover vocal tuning, of course, a little bit of sample replacement for the weak kick drum and the snare drum, and some pre-mastering techniques. And by the time I get to AR6, you have all the tools you need to do your portfolio, which is an EP length release of recording, mixing, and pre-mastering that you and you alone will execute. It's a solo project, all semester. You do your thing, and you've got a nice demo reel, so to speak, at the end of the semester that you can put out there on the web and use to promote yourself. So that's the AR sequence.
All right, you might notice in the audio recording sequence, the first 2 classes listed are MP1 and MP2. Those are the music production courses. So even everyone in the audio recording sequence must take music production 1 and 2. So even if you are one of Professor Anderson's denizens, you still get to be with me for a couple of semesters. And conversely, if I flip slides and we go to the music production sequence, you'll notice that everybody in music production has to take audio recording 1 and 2. We at least want you to dip both your feet into both fields and have some of this fundamental knowledge. In terms of the rest of the music production sequence, Music Production 1, which everyone is required to take, is an intro to digital musicianship. Right now, it introduces you to Pro Tools, introduces you to basic concepts of MIDI, some basic digital audio concepts, a little bit of history, and the beginning of the process of being a digital creative, right, in different genres. Then students typically go to audio recording 1 and 2, so that would be the second semester of your freshman year and your first semester of your sophomore year. Then in the spring, you come back to me for Music Production 2, and that's advanced topics in digital musicianship. Right now, that class is based in Logic X, And we do a little bit of review, and then we dive in and we do more fun things. You see, just take every topic that we picked up in MP1 and squeeze the life out of it, so to say. And it's more general, right? MP1, AR1 and 2, and MP2 are more generalist courses. They're introductions to the field, right? And that's what qualify, I believe, is our minor as well. If you stay in the music production sequence, in music production 3, we do a course in synthesis, and it's all digital synthesis at this point. We used to do a little bit of hardware, but we just keep it digital at this point. And the idea of this is to study the basic facets of synthesizer technology. Can you create a sound using wavetable synthesis, additive synthesis, subtractive synthesis, FM synthesis? Can you create sounds from scratch? Can you listen to a recording? Someone just sent me a recording yesterday of it's that late 90s kind of like trip hop techno sort of group. I forget what it's called. If I played it, I'm blanking on it. But they said hot. And it wasn't Portishead, no. But actually, these are some sound. And there's a question, like, there's this drum sound that sounds like cards being flipped. How do I make it, right? And we just sat down and we figured out what that sound was, and how you, and what tools you could apply to create the sound and then perform it the way it's being performed on that track, right? So that's synthesis. And then in music production 4, we totally switch gears and do orchestration. So every student ends up composing a piece for orchestra and choir, which is composed, assuming COVID ends or in some way, we usually bring students into the studio to record the choral part of their composition live in the studio. So they're actually conducting, they record it, then they mix it, and then they build a digital orchestra around it. So we're using right now the instruments from the Complete series, and there are some additional tools that we have in our music production individual labs as well. Music production 5 is music for film, commercials, and interactive media. So I like to call it our survey of every important cliche, or I think Ian once used the word trope, which is a much better word, cultural trope in terms of scoring media. So there are ways to score a car commercial. There are ways to score an episode of Peppa Pig. There are ways to score a horror film. There are ways to approach the opening credits of a video game, and that's the sort of thing we spend our time on there. And then our 6th course, as I told you before, is the guided portfolio, sorry. And that is, in our case, it's 3 or 4 pieces. If you are a double major or a double sequence person, you create a minimum of 3 works, 2 of which can be rebuilds of previous things you've created for our classes, and 1 which must be new. And if you are only an MP person, you do 4 works, and at least 1 must be based either in video or in a video game. So people a lot of times like to come into these sequences and they have a particular idea in mind. I had a student once that was very adamant. He said he was a punk musician. I do punk production, punk composition. This is what I do. And I said, I hope that you go into your career and you become the punk man in the industry. May it be you. But in the meantime, as you're working your way up through the industry, if somebody calls you and says, I have a gig for you, it pays $300 and it means going out and recording the string quartet, are you going to say no because it's not punk music? No, I hope you know how to record the string quartet. If somebody calls you and says, I have a radio commercial and I need the audio, I need the voice mix for the radio commercial, I need background music, it pays $500, right? Are you going to say no to that? Or are you going to go and do that radio commercial? Martin O'Donnell, our first super special guest that we had, we all know him for doing the music for Halo and know him for doing the music for things like the Mist and Riven series. But his first big gig was doing the jingle for Flintstones Vitamins, which he actually wanted to reject at first because he thought it was too important for such work. And when he found out how much it paid, he said, sure. And that he likes to joke that jingle, the royalties from that put his daughter through college, right? So we're trying to think of giving you a path that is very customizable so that your interests can be followed, can be pursued, but also that we are able to give you all of this other generalist information to make you more sellable in a highly competitive industry. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Cindy.
Awesome. Thank you both. I saw that we have a question in the chat, and I also see that Ian replied back in the chat, but I figured in case no one knows how to use the chat function, Ian, if you want to help answer this. So the question that we have here is, if we are using Logic X, would we have to get a MacBook?
I did answer that in the chat. I don't know if you can see that, Cindy.
Oh, no, I mean, if you can, in case someone else is not able.
Oh yeah, sure. So I think Mark and I are largely in agreement that if a student does want to buy their own computer, we generally recommend they get a Mac. But we have enough new high-powered iMacs in our labs that you don't need to buy. You don't need to buy your own computer if you don't want to. And we also have plenty of students who show up on campus with a shiny new Windows PC, and they do just fine too. So you don't need to feel obligated to buy every piece of software that we're using. We're fine in that regard. We have plenty of computers with all the software both tracks would need to complete their degrees.
Now, if you are looking to create a computer for yourself, yes, I'm about to use battery power here. I have to plug in. I'll tell you, yes, you must learn Pro Tools, right, as part of MP1 and the AR sequence, and you must learn Logic for MP2. After that, I don't care what DAW you use. Students, oftentimes we tell students, don't build anything until you've been with us for a year or two, so you get to try all of these things for free. And then you know what you like, and you know what kind of computer to build for yourself. So when we get to music production 5 and you're doing a score for, like right now we just did horror film scores, right? I don't care what tools you use to do that. I only care that it sounds good. So we make that transition from click on this to do this in the software to use whatever tools you like or have access to create the following. So we make that transition rather organically. It tends not to be a problem for students.
No, there's one thing I would like to add though. For audio recording students, I do recommend, by the time you're a junior or a senior, I do recommend that you get your own copy of Pro Tools. It'll help you out tremendously. We do not do Pro Tools certifications, frankly, because we don't have time. Our course sequence is so packed, so tightly, that it would be extremely difficult for us to try to squeeze that in, if I'm being honest.
I just had a question about the EP assignment. Would the assignment necessarily be recording with that software? Or if we wanted to make our own personal project, I'm considering maybe purchasing Ableton and working with that. Would one be able to, like...
Well, okay, that's a good question, fair question. If you are doing your AR6 portfolio, you're doing it in Studio A, which it's a Pro Tools room. Now that doesn't mean that you can't, add electronic elements, or beat elements from Ableton, export them as a wave, pull them into your Pro Tools session with, the instruments you've recorded. We've absolutely had people do that. We've had a lot of people, sort of develop their own synth tones and that kind of stuff in Ableton.
And Professor Anderson, if I may interject,
yeah.
For AR, the rule still is that the portfolio for AR is not your work. You're recording another group or another performer.
Correct.
Right? You're playing the part of producer, not composer.
Yes.
If you want to...
You can add stuff, though. You can contribute.
So one of the students I have going into MP6 right now, he's one of my Ableton monkeys, right? And he's probably going to do a lot of his... And so if you want to do your own work, I'm an Ableton guy, and 4 years from now, you're still an Ableton guy, and you want to do your own EP, your own work in Ableton, that's a music production thing, right? So, and I think you could also see, if I may go back, why having both sequences, or at least as much as you can handle of both sequences, is really good for your career.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Logic Pro, I've heard, is definitely better at recording stuff than Ableton is.
I would agree. I think, honestly, personally, this is definitely for Professor Novakovsky, but my personal opinion is I think Logic is one of the best creative tools out there. If you are, the virtual instrument collection that it comes with, in my opinion, blows Ableton's out of the water. I think it's a superior creative tool. Do you have anything to say about that, Mark?
Well, we support Ableton here. We have Ableton 9. We're not going to support it on every unit going forward because the new update on Logic pretty much does everything that's worth doing in Ableton just about as well, plus things Ableton can't do. We are we're looking at getting some copies of Ableton 10 for we have 3 individual music production suites. So there are students that will go use those rooms as well. So we're going to keep supporting that. It's just not an official part of the course sequence. That could change if Ableton 3 years from now supersedes Logic, does something massive, and they're competing pretty hard, so it's entirely possible. We have to make budget decisions. Then we might find ourselves, putting Logic to the side and doing Ableton more, right? So it depends. So, but you can do Ableton the whole time. That's the point.
Awesome. Great question that led into one place to another. So, did we have any other questions? Awesome. Well, I guess thank you both Mark and Ian for this awesome presentation. And we'll go ahead and cue in our next thing. Thank you all again.
This summer I landed an internship down in Nashville, Tennessee at Omnisound Studios. Omnisound Studios is one of Music Row's top recording facilities. A few of the big names that have come through there are Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Luke Bryan, Blake Shelton, Miranda Lambert, Charlie Puth, Carrie Underwood, Lady Antebellum, Bryce Black. During my time there, I was assisting for the most part. So I would go in usually at nights, and I would set up the microphones for the studio session the next day. When I wasn't setting up microphones, I was observing everything that I could. These are real studio musicians in the real world, so all the techniques that they are using are what the standard is for the industry at that moment. So getting a lot of experience just watching them work was amazing. I worked with all three of the main studio engineers, and they're all incredible people, all masters of their craft. The biggest thing that I learned at the internship is client relations. So I would say it's like a 60-40 split in the business, between 60% being the technology expertise and the 40% is just relating to your clients. You have to keep up with them. You have to show that you're ready to work. A lot of it is just a back and forth between you and the artist to make sure that they're getting what they want out of the experience, and making sure that you are providing them everything that you can to give them what they want. So at the end of my internship, I sat down with my advisor and Lee Unfried, the studio manager, and he said that he's always looking to accept Kent State Stark students because of how prepared they are to come into a professional studio. Initially coming to Kent State Stark, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I jumped headfirst into the music tech degree, and as I progressed through the courses, I ended up loving it. That's kind of initially why I jumped into it. I can talk about that. All right, here we go. All right, my dream job kind of is and was to be a voice actor. Hey, Peter! I initially jumped into the program thinking that I could be able to record myself and do everything necessary to send demo tapes and demo reels to potential employers. But as I progressed in the program, I saw many other doors and possibilities open. Things like sound effects, Foley work, scoring a movie, TV show, anything like that interests me. So
that's perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
The faculty is amazing. They've worked in the industry before, so they know how to apply their expertise and their experience in the classroom. The facilities we have here are state-of-the-art. After taking classes here, I was able to walk into a Nashville studio and know exactly how to record on day one. We are very lucky to have this place. I would agree with that. Not being facetious about that. The music technology program is helping me build my audio toolkit so I can have a lifelong career in the audio industry. Ah, it was so good.
So good, yeah.
Greetings, everybody. I am Aaron Vaughn. I am the coordinator of guitar and also the studio ensemble coordinator. And I am here to introduce the folks that are going to be part of the panel discussion. When I introduce you, if you can just jump up and say, hey, so everybody knows who you are and can put a name with a face, that would be dynamite. The first two folks that I'm going to introduce are Sam and Kylie. They are our student moderators. So Sam and Kylie, can you jump up and say, hey?
Buddy. I'm Sam.
There's Sam. Where are you, Kylie?
I'm in Studio A.
Oh, there you are. Okay, sweet. Awesome. Thank you, guys. We next have Mike Bergdorf, who Mike is an alumnus, but he is also our production manager and tech director and the keeper and waterer and feeder of all of our toys. So Mike, bring your cam up and say, hey, man.
Hey, everybody.
Awesome, thank you. And then we have Brandon Saluski, who is also an alumnus, graduated in 2018. He is currently living in Nashville right now. He is the music director for Anastasia Elliott, and he is also the owner and operator of Skyrocket Sounds, where it's his production company where basically he takes artists from the initial idea to the finished product. So go ahead and come on up and say, hey, Brandon.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
All right. And then finally, even though she was the first one that jumped on camera, we have Nikki Qualman, who currently is a junior and eyeball deep in this very, very busy curriculum. So
Hello.
there is Nikki. Great. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Sam and Kylie now because they've got a whole thing put together for us. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Hey guys, so what we just kind of wanted to do was me and Kylie kind of came up with some questions that we thought would be good to ask you all, Mike and Brandon as alumnus and Nikki, you as a student. So we're just going to kind of start with a really simple one. So what we were kind of curious, what kind of drew you to come to Kent State Stark? This is kind of for everybody.
I know for me, it was basically I could pursue all of the different interests I had because I was wanting to record, I was wanting to do sound design, I was doing a lot of teaching, so I wanted to learn more about my instrument, I wanted to play in ensembles, and when I saw what Kent State had, it was literally everything I was looking for, and I was able to, with all the different faculty, basically get into all the different interests that I had.
For me, I actually came to Kent State Stark out of necessity. I joined as a zoology major and I did a whole entire year as zoology as a freshman. And then I needed to do music in some way. So I had a meeting with the choir director at the time. And she kind of told me, she's like, you need to be in music. Why aren't you doing all this stuff? And I kind of thought at the time, because my high school didn't really prepare me for a life in music, I didn't really know what was out there. And I thought there was performance or teaching. And she kind of told me about the music tech program, and I had never heard anything like it before. No one's ever told me that that was kind of like a career path you could take. I thought that was just for lucky people who ended up being in the industry somehow. So once I found out about the tech program, I was instantly wanting to change. I was like, this is what I want to do. So, and I got lucky that I was already here on campus and got to just kind of stay.
I'll touch up on this one too. One of the things I loved coming down here was, pretty much just the atmosphere of, what this place brings. It's not, I do believe we are the largest satellite campus from Kent State. And there is such a, low faculty ratio to a student ratio. So it becomes a lot more personal. You know your teachers know you. You're not just, a number in a class. They know who you are, and they actually interact with you because every person's different. They want to help you achieve what you want to achieve. They want you to achieve what you want to achieve. So they all want to help you, reach your goal, whatever that's going to be in this industry.
Cool, that sounds great. So I have another question for you guys. Let's start off with Nikki this time, and then we'll go around. So because you're a current student and you're a junior, what opportunities or networking connections have you found inside the music tech program here at Kent State Stark?
Inside the program, I think it's pretty much every other student you can kind of make a connection with in some way, and each one has their own talent and they're all going to be helpful in some way. The professors have been around the block and know what they're doing, so just making connections with them and knowing how to ask them to help you meet people is a great connection. And like, for instance, a big project that I'm working on right now is writing my own EP. And I think a couple other students are working on that as well. So it's before I thought I like had pushed it back so long because I thought I was alone and I thought I was gonna have to do all this myself. And then it like clicked one day. I was like, I have so many people like at my disposal right now to help me, and so many resources, and just like this like amazing space to like work on my own music. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that's come out of me being in school still, is being able to collaborate with other students and not feeling like I'm so alone, like working on my own music, just using the resources that are there, like given to me.
For me, it was all the students that I ended up doing a lot of projects with at my time there. We ended up, after graduating, still working together. You really build really strong friendships when you go through the program together. And a lot of those friends, like when I got down here in Nashville, I had 2 friends from Kent Stark already down here, and I jumped in, started working with them. And then that's what rolled into everything else I've done down here. So it's really about the time spent with everyone in ensembles and music theory class and things like that really serve you well after you graduate.
I just want to throw one other thing in there, that we actually, a few of us from Kent Stark, started a band. Mike Bergdorf and Professor Vaughn are also in it, and then some other students who've already graduated. So that's a huge, cool thing that we got to do that is still active right now, as we started a band outside of school that we do performances and stuff. So that's fun too.
Mike, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I'm actually going to have you repeat the question for me real fast, if you would.
Did you have anything you wanted to? Okay, so if you could just tell us, like, if there's any opportunities or like any important connections that you made, like within the program, or like that, like because of the program that led to anything or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that helped me whenever I came through this program is I started working freelancing in the field, off campus of the university when I was a sophomore. And my major passion in the audio field will be in the live sound reinforcement area. So whenever I entered that line of work, I learned really quick how much what I'm learning on campus translates into a live scenario, because audio theory is still the same thing. We still use the same type of microphones, probably a little bit more robust because they do travel a lot on the road, and it's a lot easier for them to get, banged up. So that's probably the biggest thing for me, is like I was just able to already have a career starting 3 years before I graduated. And that was, about 5-6 years ago, I graduated from the program. I've been doing live sound reinforcement for close to 10 years now professionally. And from where I was 10 years ago to where I am now is like a complete transition to, what I can do now. And it's actually helped me, probably helped me, keep me employed, even just, because I, work here as a tech director and a production manager. So I would say getting the connections out there, which are actually, pretty simple. It's actually very simple to do that in Northeast Ohio. So.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of piggyback on that thought too. It was, kind of already mentioned by Brandon, that the idea of networking, because that's something, as soon as you walk into fundamentals or rudiments or theory 1 or wherever you get placed right out of the gate, you're networking, whether you realize it or not. So the people that are sitting on either side of you in those classes are the people that likely are going to be your co-conspirators in some of your first projects. And likewise, if somebody needs a drummer for something, if you are always in class and you're prepped and you're ready to go, and oh yeah, you have the skill set of being able to play pretty well too, there's a real good chance that your name is going to get passed along. And that, that's not just peer to peer, but also from the teachers down to the students too. I know for myself, whenever I get called for something that I'm unable to do, and I think that I've got a stable of students that are able to handle it, I'll pass their names and their numbers along and try to get them working as soon as we possibly can, because that's the name of the game. That's why we're all here, and we know that that's why all of the students are here, is because you want that professional experience, and that starts from day one. So even when you think, oh, this is theory, and I got to get ready for this practical, and I don't want to do it, you are paying into your own reputation starting from day one. So that's just important to kind of keep in mind as a general educational gestalt in a music program. All right, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, gang, if you got your next question.
All good. That's probably a good transition, because our next question is specifically for you. So no pressure, but me and Kylie were kind of talking, and we both kind of agreed that maybe the most important class we took here was this class about, when we took it, it was called Navigating the Music Industry, and now I think it's called something else. It might just be called Music Industry. But we both agreed that was a class that was super important. And we didn't even know about it until we actually had to sign up to take the class. So we just wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about the class and kind of what it is and why it's important, and just kind of give us a quick rundown.
Sure, absolutely. Let me start by kind of turning it around to the two of you. Can you give me like an example of one specific thing that was important for you, or that was like a huge takeaway that you're going to keep in your back pocket, and it's going to be one of the most important things that you kind of lean on in the early part of your career? Go ahead, Sam, since you were the first one up there.
Well, obviously my goal is when I graduate, I would like to, find a band and just tour all over the country. And we did a couple of projects about that, about touring and, making sure your route makes sense, and the drive's not too far, and making sure that you have enough merchandise and that you can pay for food and for gas and all that other stuff. And so having that and kind of being aware of all these things that you have to sort of keep track of and keep in your mind was really valuable, because I feel like I'm very prepared to go and do that. Whereas before I would have just been kind of winging it, and now I kind of am, I'm thinking ahead on these things and thinking about what I would have to consider to kind of go do these things. So
absolutely,
that was something that really kind of prepared me for that.
Wonderful. Good. Kylie, I posed the same question to you. What was one takeaway? And if yours was the tour project, you need to come up with another one.
Mine was the tour project. But other than that, I really liked the other project we did, which was a website project, because since I want to be a professional recording and touring artist, that was a big help, because we need a website to be able to do that and get our name out. So I really liked all the intricacies and all that you actually have to think about to make it a good website that people understand and it's not confusing where to get to. I also liked just the whole, I lost my train of thought. I also liked how you explained that there are some other ways in the industry to earn some more income while you're heading towards your main career goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So the class that they're talking about, as they said, when they took it, it was called Music Industry, and now it's called Music Career Entrepreneurship. And that's really important. It's probably a little bit better name too, because the one thing that is very, very common in the industry now is this whole idea of being entrepreneurial. And, everybody talks about, the gig market and gig workers. And really, as a musician, I joke all the time that being a full-time musician is really having a bunch of part-time jobs. And one thing that is a very underlying, a very foundational element for all of us that teach here is we want your skill set to be broad, and we want it to be very, very deep, because we don't know what you're going to be doing when you get out there. When I was a young man, I wanted to be in a metal band and I wanted to tour the world, and that was my thing. And I still love heavy stuff. I still play guitar all the time, but I realized along the way that while I was waiting for that to, take off or, book gigs, what have you, there are other things that you can be doing in addition to that. And so the entrepreneurship class, we have them do a tour project, which again is, what are the things that you would never think of to be aware of or to pre-plan when you're about to take 5 people, 6 people, 2 people, 3 people out on the road. And so it was a very immersive project that is very, very detail oriented, but it gives you a fairly realistic, even though we have to pretend a little bit with some of it. We can't actually measure the outcome specifically. We can't say, hey, everybody jump on a bus and, or jump in a caravan and go out for 3 weeks. But you at least kind of see what things cost. You see what gas prices are like in other part of the countries, or the other part of the country. You look at what a hotel versus a hostel versus crashing on somebody's couch, how is that going to impact your budget over the course of 21 days? So yeah, that's a very important one. And then the idea of you being in charge of your media presence is really, really very important. We had them doing the website project that also had a tie-in with social accounts as well, because it's really a combination of those things. If you look at any artist right now, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on a Bandcamp, they've got their own personal website. So there's just a huge, huge web presence. And that's a piece in this program that is really, really very important, because the concepts don't really just relate to you as an artist. If you're a person that is going to be doing producing, if you're going to be writing, if you're doing music for games, really literally anything that you have can be put out there so people get a sense of who you are. And, even though it's become kind of a buzzword, but what your brand is and what you're all about. So it's a good class. It's an important class, and the feedback has been pretty consistent since we've started doing it. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. What else you got?
Another question about a class is the studio ensemble classes. I know that's another one of my favorites because we get to perform. So do you want to talk more about that?
I'd love to. The studio ensembles are the kind of band experience for the music tech students. Yes, our program has become a little more diverse in terms of instrumentation. We might get students who are coming in with more of, say, like a concert or marching band background in winds or in percussion or something like that. So if you've done concert band, if you're a vocalist and you've done choir, those are experiences that you're familiar with. But the thing I always wanted when I was in school, whether it was in high school or in undergrad, is playing the stuff that I wanted to play and the music that I was super passionate about. And that's what the studio ensembles are all about. They meet, depending upon how many students we have, we may have 5 sections. I think this semester we're running 3 sections right now. And they meet in the mornings from 10 to noon. And under normal circumstances, they meet in our smaller Studio B space. And there's a lot of things that happen in the studio ensembles. We look at music from a variety of different genres, from a variety of different eras. We look at, what that music is all about. We go over the basics of rehearsal technique, because I don't know about all of you that are out here attending this, but I wasted a lot of time in band rehearsals when I was young because I had no idea what an effective or efficient rehearsal looked like. For me, when I was a kid, rehearsing was, hey, let's play these three tunes like 10 to 15 times a piece for the next several hours. Let's keep making the same mistakes in the same place. Let's keep going back to the beginning and starting them over again. And so the students hopefully get an opportunity to see what efficient rehearsals look like and just how to interact with one another as, sensitive artistic beings, because musicians, we are unique animals. And so just learning to interact with one another and help, raise the abilities of everybody else around you and to, make good music. And then at the end of the semester, we get to put on these really, really cool shows that have just continued to get really, really fun, even more fun and more production value. And they look great. They sound great. and the students have a really wonderful time doing them. And we'll do stuff from, the Great American Songbook, jazz from, like, let's say the 40s up through the 60s. We had a group that did what was the Tool record that they did? Why am I blanking on that? I spent 15
Lateralis.
Thank you. They did Lateralis in its entirety. We had a group that did kind of a retrospective of Paramore a year ago. So, the music that we're touching on, it's not just old music. We're doing stuff that is relevant, and we're doing stuff that you will actually have to do out in the wild when you get called for gigs. And that's, really kind of that idea of kind of training you professionally and getting you ready for those types of jobs. What else you got?
Awesome. I'm actually going to steer towards Brandon and ask him what are some of his favorite experience he had in studio ensemble.
Let's see. One semester we actually did a Radiohead ensemble where every single instrument it was all MIDI based. So no acoustic instruments other than singing. That was amazing because I was playing keyboards for that. And as a drummer, I got opportunity to kind of jump over to another instrument. And I also all of us made our own sounds for it as well. We didn't grab any presets. So it was an amazing experience using Ableton Live, actually live, instead of as just a studio recording device. The other thing big with ensembles is that's where you're going to really learn how to pick up songs quickly and how a rehearsal should be run, just like Professor Vaughn was saying. Like in Nashville, if you jump on a gig, you might get one rehearsal if you're lucky, or you might show up to the gig and they're like, hey, we didn't go over this, but we're about to play this song. So just watch me for the changes, you'll figure it out. And you need some of those experiences at Kent Stark to know how to handle that before you jump in on stage and your professional reputation is on the line. So I think the ensemble experience is one of the most powerful things that Kent State would offer.
Yeah, I would like to underscore Brandon's point with that is that, that idea of having just unlimited amounts of time to rehearse is not the typical scenario in a professional setting. Like you said, if you're lucky, you get a rehearsal, and then you'll be on the gig and somebody calls a tune and you're like, whoa, that wasn't on the set list, and they're like, you'll hear it, you'll be fine. And while the white hot terror just kind of washes over you, you're like, all right, you put your big ears on and you remember everything that you learned by going through McGammett and singing, and you're like, oh, there's the 5 chord, it's going back to the tonic. So it is very practical stuff. Cool. Anything else anybody want to, add in? I mean, because Sam and Kylie and Nikki, the 3 of you were involved in ensembles. I would pose that same question to you. I mean, what's
for sure.
Valuable?
Nikki and Mike, obviously the same question goes for you guys. What were some of your things you learned or some of like your favorite experiences?
I actually had a crazy opportunity and I got to be in an ensemble when I wasn't even a music major. It was Abbey Road. So we did the whole Abbey Road album from start to finish. And it's not typical, but the old choir director, Laurel Seeds, she auditioned that group with Vaughn. And so I just happened to audition and got to be a part of the ensemble without being a music major or music tech major. And I was like, wow, you guys get to do this every semester, like different like music. That's so cool. And that was also part of the reason why I wanted to change. Definitely helped my decision. And then as he mentioned, Sam, Kylie, and I did Paramore. Was that last fall? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It
was a year ago. Yeah, we were actually rehearsing all of that stuff a year ago.
Yeah. So
take me back.
That was crazy fun. And the concert was amazing. My passion is performing. So anytime I get to do a performance of any kind, it's like the best thing for me. So to be able to do a performance of one of my favorite bands was like crazy and kind of like an out-of-body experience. And we brought in one of the artists that had also attended the school, and she did these amazing like art projections like on the stage. So it like felt like you were in like a real show. I mean, like we were, but you know what I mean? Kind of away from school almost. And we get to do stuff like that every semester, which is just crazy. Like right now my group is doing what does it stand, pop tunes from 2010 to current. So just random here and there, like pop songs that like made the Billboard charts. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's one of my favorite classes. It doesn't feel like school to me. It feels like something that I get to do rather than something that I have to do, because performing and singing is my favorite thing to do. So I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so one of the ensembles that I actually got to perform in was actually about 2 years ago. We actually did a full Coldplay ensemble, and I've never listened to Coldplay. So it's like, well, I'm definitely going to have to learn a lot of things and, you know, to make this work. So, and every week that we would, you know, rehearse with each other, it was like I was actually starting to love it more and more. And it's like, so because I'm a drummer, for those of you that don't know, and because I really wanted to, you know, try to do it justice with the music that we were playing, I analyzed the tunes that we, you know, selected, and I actually expanded my drum kit, you know, to have, you know, acoustic drums, but then I heard a lot of electronic samples being played. So I took a drum module and cycled through, you know, endless numbers of samples and tried to replicate what was actually being performed on the record. So that was probably one of the coolest ensembles I ever got to play for. And another one of the cool things about studio ensembles is actually for my end, you know, on a normal basis, when I think it was Aaron, you mentioned that it runs like either like about 3 to 5 ensembles a semester. I think we have, you know, roughly that amount. Yep. And I actually get to sit with the music director for all those ensembles, and I'm actually the one sitting behind the desk in the studio, actually routing audio for the bands and, you know, for us on our side of the glass. So, and that's where I get a lot of creative ideas, because, you know, usually, you know, I have a, you know, big influence whenever it comes time for the performance. Well, because I kind of take care of, you know, the PA and like the system tech and, you know, the tech director for all those kind of events too. So I think that's one of the coolest experiences ever since we got the new expansion put in, that I'm able to, you know, do that pretty much on a daily basis, is actually just, you know, sit behind the console, listen to music for 2 hours, you know, for, you know, as part of my job. So it's like, you know, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely the mix of influences that you can get from these things are really super cool. Okay, guys, so that is actually going to be the end of our Q&A session. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and myself or Kylie or any of the other people here will do our best to answer those. I'm actually going to kick it back to Cindy. So Cindy, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. This was amazing. We want to thank especially our panelists today. Sam and Kylie are awesome. And then you also have Aaron. Thank you so much. Again, to your point, if you have any questions, feel free to add it to the chat, but we're going to go ahead and transition to the tour. So just, you know, sit back and we'll see you soon.
Hey everybody, Kylie here again. And for our tour, we're going to start here in Studio A. So Studio A is for the upper class audio recording classes. So audio recording 3 all the way to audio recording 6. And Studio A has 2 sections, the control room and the live room. And here we are in the control room. And as you can see, we have the largest console in this building. And what I love about this console is that it's a professional standard. So basically, if you walk into a recording studio, it'll either be this console or it'll be a console super similar to that. So you can walk in and you can be confident that you know what you're doing. And on this console, we have onboard gear. So we have faders here that go up and down that control the levels of whatever mic you're listening to. You have pan pods, which tells you, which you tell the audio to go either left, center, or the right. You have the EQ, that is for equalizers, that's to amplify, that's to increase or decrease certain frequencies, whatever you want the sound to be. And we have built-in preamps, which is that's just to help amplify the sound coming from the mic. We also have outboard gear that you would also see in professional studios. And what I love about this class in this facility is that I get to learn everything you need to know for a job or an internship, hopefully in Nashville, that I will be confident in. Hopefully, I'll get a job and I will be able to have a sustainable income, as well as go towards my main career goal, which is be a professional recording artist. So let's head over to the live room.
Hello again, everybody. We're in the live room Studio A right now. One of the really cool things about having this awesome space is that we get to use it for a lot of our projects. And it's really cool because even though it's a school thing and there are a lot of school projects and working with students, it really does kind of feel like a professional setting, and that's really cool because it prepares you to go out and if I need to go to record drums for somebody professional in their studio or even just at my house. It really helps me be kind of prepared in that setting and kind of know what I'm doing. If you look around, there's a lot of really nice guitar amps right over here. We have a grand piano, and we just got a nice Hammond. There's a couple really nice isolation booths that we usually use for vocals. And back over here in this room, there's a lot of really, really nice, expensive mic equipment that we can come in and use for our projects whenever we want. So yeah, it's a really awesome space, and it's really, really cool that we get to kind of use it to work on our own stuff. So now we're going to head over to the rehearsal hall and see what Kylie's up to.
So here we have the rehearsal hall, and as you can see, it's a very large room, which is very helpful to us because that means we can accommodate many different classes. And the classes that are mainly held in here are concert band, choir, and voice. But another thing we do in here is we hold concerts. So whenever we have a soloist, a quartet, or a duet of some sort that really requires an intricate and a more intimate kind of setting, we hold it here. And it's a fantastic sight to see. So let's head over to the faculty offices. Here we have all the faculty offices, and this is where usually they are here. And what's perfect is that they are in the very middle of this building. So instead of walking to the other side of the building or a completely different building in general, you can just walk right down the hall, knock on the door, and let's go inside.
Hi again. This is actually Professor Vaughn's office. You just met him earlier. There's a lot of Kiss and Star Wars stuff, so he's a big fan. So one of the really cool things about kind of the curriculum here is that to bolster your performance skills, they make you take one-on-one lessons, and a lot of times those lessons are held in the faculty offices. Professor Vaughn does it. I know Dr. Birch does it, and I know Professor Bagwell does it too. So it's really cool to just kind of have that time to really work on and hone your craft. So now we're going to go over to Kylie, who's sitting in the student lounge.
So here we have the student lounge, and this is where us students, we like to hang out, do homework, study, or eat, or even wait for a lesson whenever a lesson comes in an office. So let's head over to the profession room.
So obviously I spent a lot of my first 2 or 3 in this room. It's really super cool because this is kind of like our own space. This is just for percussionists. There's a lot of really cool equipment in here. Right over here, there's a really nice 5-octave marimba. There's kind of hand drums just kind of strewn all over the place. Over there's a nice drum set, and over here's symphony. And the really cool thing is that you can come in here just pretty much any time, as long as they're not having class. You can sign on a key and just come practice. A lot of times they have rehearsals in here, and like I said, there's all the percussion studio classes are held right in this room, which is super cool. So now we're gonna head over to the music production lab.
So here we have the music production room. This is where all of our music production classes are held. So let's hear a little piece from Sam that he actually created in one of these classes.
Okay, so like Kelly said, I'm just going to show you a quick little thing that I made for my music production 5 class. And the really cool thing about MP5 is it's a film scoring class. And one of the really cool things about MP5 and also MP6, which is the portfolio class, is that they're really both kind of like full circle classes, meaning that you kind of take everything that you learned in the first 4 semesters of MP and you kind of really apply it in those last 2 classes. So this is a film scoring class, and one of the things that we had to do each week is we have like different themes or modules that we have to create. So like one week we have to create a theme for a hero, one week you have to create a theme for a love story, the next week maybe it's a theme for loss or death. So I'm just going to show you one that I made. This is like, I made this a few weeks ago for as my hero theme. So I can't come see. This is the setup that they have at all of the stations here, and they have just got a MIDI keyboard, and then they have Logic, Ableton, and Pro Tools, as well as like a bunch of really, really nice virtual instruments and plugins on all these computers. So I'll just hit play, and you can listen to it. All right, now we're gonna head downstairs and check out some of the music theory classrooms. So if you just want to follow.
Well, Sam and Kylie, what is your favorite type of music? Mine is country music, but I listen to any type of music. So whatever I'm feeling that day.
But I'll tease her about only listening to country music, but don't do that, otherwise she'll bite your head off.
So here we have the theory room. And in here, we learn all of our theory classes, and we take all of our theory classes. So fundamentals, rudiments, theory 1, theory 2, and contemporary popular music theory. I love our theory classes because in them we get to delve more into how music is created. Like why did this composer use this chord? How did they make these chords work together to create such a beautiful piece? I thought that was something really interesting. And another class that I love that is held in here is music industry, as we discussed before. And that's when we talk about all the music industry aspects of it and how we can make money off of other paths and that are help towards our main career path. A project that we worked on, as stated before, was a tour project. So we made a band with a 5-piece band. We named it. We figured out hotels, what destinations we wanted. We had a budget. We would figure out what we had to eat to stay on that budget, merchandise to sell so that we can get some income. It's a great and useful tool for people who actually want to tour, because then you get an understanding of how the planning happens and how much it actually goes into it. So enough of this. Let's go to an individual music production lab.
So I'm standing in one of the music production labs. These are usually for the upper level music production students. So if you're in MPs 3 through 6, you can use these as much as you want. Usually what happens is you sign out a key and then you can just come and use these at your convenience. Some of the same equipment, like MIDI keyboard, but they do have dual monitors. And one of the really cool things is that they have a lot nicer virtual instruments and a ton of nicer plugins on these. So the really cool thing is that you can kind of come down here and like kind of polish up your projects, kind of put the finishing touches on it using those things. And the other really cool thing is that you don't need headphones, because upstairs, there's usually a bunch of people in there, so you need to put headphones on so they don't hear. But that's not the case here. We got 2 nice monitors, and you just kind of listen as loud as you want. There are 3 of these. There's 2 on each side. So now we're gonna head down here and check out the practice rooms.
So here we have one of our many practice rooms. And the practice rooms with pianos in them are so helpful to students that are taking piano, voice, or theory. You spend a lot of your time here, especially if you don't have a piano at home. So it's super helpful to have many quality pianos here just at school, right at our fingertips. And what I love is that we can use these for personal use as well. For example, my first 2 years here, whenever I would have free time, I would spend time in here and write my own original music that hopefully will be released soon. So I love the opportunity to be able to use such quality instrumentation. Let's head over to Sam, who will give us more explanation of the practice rooms.
Hey, so like Kylie said, these are we have many of these practice rooms. There actually are 2 percussion practice rooms. There's this one, which just has this marimba in it, and then there's one over in the other corner that has an electronic drum set and a vibraphone. So if there's a class going on upstairs in the percussion room, or if you just kind of want to come down here and just kind of shut yourself in a room and just practice privately, you can do that. It's the same as upstairs. You just got to sign out a key. And it's super cool just because, like I said, if you want to just come in here and practice privately, you can definitely do that. So that's nice. This is a nice tool to have. So now we're going to head over to Studio B, which is our downstairs studio. People are here. Okay, so this is the library for Studio B, which is our downstairs studio. This studio is a little bit smaller. This is the studio that a lot of the lower level audio recording classes take place in. So audio recording 1 and 2. Like I said, it's a little bit smaller, but there's still a lot of things that happen here. Namely, in a normal semester, the ensemble work, like the studio ensemble rehearsals, are usually happening here. Like the drums usually be in our ice booth over there, and all the guitarists and vocalists will kind of be right out here. And like I said, AR 1 and 2, they take place kind of just in the studio. The main thing that you kind of learn in those classes is just, how to kind of, you kind of learn vocabulary, like different parts of the drum set or different parts of an electric amp or a guitar, just so you can kind of, if you go to studio space, you can be professional and know what you're doing and know how to converse with people like that. And now we're going to head to the control room and talk to Kylie.
here we have the control room of Studio B. And this is, like Sam said, for beginners, so audio recording 1 and 2. And as you can tell, the console is a lot less scary looking than the one upstairs. And that's very helpful because it helps us to teach just the basics of what we need to learn. And it helps us to teach signal input, output, the flow of it, and also helps us to teach outboard gear as well. And it gives us a nice feel with how audio recording happens, and it gives us a nice, sturdy, basic foundation before we go up to Studio A. Another thing that happens here are studio ensembles. So usually in a normal semester, we'd have the ensemble in the live room, all mic'd up, avions, headphones, and practicing and performing. And in here, we would have 2 tech people patching up. They set up the microphones, they would do levels, and they would be tracking us so that later on we can go back to the track and see what we need work on. So yeah, while we have Cynthia and Sam come in here, have any questions you want to ask in the chat? And are there any?
All right, so we have a couple questions in the chat. Someone asked, do I have to be great at my instrument or knowledgeable in any of the equipment before I come to your program?
Okay, yeah, no, I feel like I'm qualified to answer this. When I came here, I was mainly, like, I had experience, like, performing, and I played drums for, I think, at that point, I played for, like, 9 or 10 years. So I was pretty proficient at that, but I was not at all familiar with any of the equipment. Everything else is pretty foreign to me, like, any of the technological stuff. And they kind of, the cool thing is they bring you up to speed pretty quickly on that stuff. And another cool thing is that the auditions that they do here, I think you mentioned earlier, Cindy, or Professor Bond did, but the auditions that they do are not to decide whether or not you get in, they're just to place you. So they accept everybody, and then you audition, and then based on your audition, they can kind of place you into what theory class you need to be in, or what type of lessons you need to be taking.
To kind of add on to that, I just want to emphasize there's no pressure. Like,
yeah,
if you don't have music experience, it helps for us to let us know so that we can ensure that we're properly placing through the courses. So by the time you meet with an academic advisor, they can understand, okay, this is your sequencing of how you're going to begin these classes. So
yeah, I should also add too that there are a lot of people that come here with kind of the opposite of what I came here with, where they have a bunch of technology, experience and almost no like musical or performance experience, and the program kind of brings them up to speed pretty quickly and kind of gets them all caught up musically.
All right, do I need to play guitar or drums to be a music tech major, or can I do something like trumpet or violin?
You definitely don't have to be a drummer or a vocalist or a guitarist to be in this major. One of our friends actually is a French horn player.
Yep.
And we also have trumpet players, and I believe we have a cellist as well. So any instrument you can play, we accept it, and we actually love it. So
yeah, it's cool to get diversity here, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, 2 more questions. What do you guys want to do with your degree? What are you trying to do?
Okay, so with my degree, I really hope I'm doing double concentration, so I'm going the music production route and the audio recording route. For the music production route, I wanted to learn more of DAWs to help with my own personal music so I can release it, but also to help me learn how to score movies like we are in MP5 so that I can get some freelancing jobs as well. For AR, I really hope that I get to be able to get a job at a recording studio, again, hopefully in Nashville, and know more about the music industry down there and how a professional recording studio works, and to get my foot in the door with the recording artist and touring artist side of the world.
Yeah, so definitely I'm looking to tour and kind of do the same thing that Kylie is. I graduate in the spring, so I'm kind of lining stuff up to maybe be able to go tour next summer, coronavirus willing. But yeah, like Kelly said, the film scoring thing is really cool. That's a really cool aspect that I didn't even consider when I came here, and now it's like, it's something that it's probably like one of my favorite things that I've taken from the MP classes, and definitely something that I'm gonna look into doing and try to pursue.
Okay. For certain production classes, is there certain software that we must start out with, or are we allowed to choose our software?
I think it's been a minute, but I think in MP1, Professor Novakovsky starts you off on Pro Tools, and then Logic, and then Ableton. He kind of like gives you like a crash course on each of them, and you have to do a project using each of those DAWs. And then MP2, I know there's like
We use Logic.
Yeah, and MP2 is Logic. And then after that, I think you can use kind of anything. Yeah, after that, it really you use the DAW of your choice. The goal of this first class is just to make sure that, you know, if you're talking with a client that's primarily using Logic, you're primarily using Ableton, and you're a Pro Tools person, like you still can, you know, interact with them and, you know, be on the same level as them and understand what they're saying.
And our last question is, so what do I have to do now if I'm interested in the program?
Awesome. Well, if you're interested in the program, this is where I come in. Again, my name is Cindy Ding. I'm the admissions consultant for music technology. If you are graduating this coming May 2021 or June, however your graduation date is at your school, you are welcome to actually start applying now. Our application is open for the fall 2021 term. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just simply putting in your application in, getting your official high school transfer from your guidance counselor to send it directly to our START campus. And then also, if you happen to have ACTs or SAT scores to send, those are also welcome as well with regards to test or to course placement. But we are test optional coming into this fall 2021 term. But the application's available. Feel free to go ahead online. Being that you're a part of this event, if you put an application between now until October 30th, you will be considered for an admission scholarship. So just, you know, another bonus to being a part of this preview day. But if you have any issues or have any questions, because I know the admission process can be very daunting sometimes, I'm here, I'm available to help you throughout this process. So yeah, I would say, you know, if there's anything else, we are here and welcome, and we hope you really enjoyed this preview day. If you have any questions, like I said, we're all available, but we hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for coming to Kent State Stark virtually, and we hope to see you next year. See you all then.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Vaughn at Kent State University at Stark, one of the professors here in the music department. And what you are about to see here momentarily is one of our studio ensembles that is part of our music technology program here. And they are going to be doing a performance on Thursday, December the 5th, playing the music of Paramore. They've been working on this music all semester long. We're going to be doing a retrospective of everything from, say, the first record up until now. And you're going to be hearing them in just a few moments, part of a class that we do every Friday morning. And part of the program here is to give students an opportunity to play music of different eras, different styles, so that we can make them even more employable than they would be under normal circumstances. So we have other performances that are going to be coming up as well on December the 3rd and December the 4th. You'll be hearing more about those in future streams and hearing the music from those bands as well. So what we're going to do is head out and take a listen to the band and see what they've got going.